Hello, this is Andreas speaking, and we are here with the HR podcasts of ISG in Turkey. Today we have a wonderful guest, which is Nuray Zipak. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Nuray Zipak. She was a banker, came back from England, and then she was in the stock exchange for the banks and helped first as a dealer, later became a manager, and in the end she managed stock exchange branches of the whole country of a non-bank in Turkey. Welcome, Nuray.
Okay, well, thank you, Andreas. It is my pleasure.
Sure.
Thank you for inviting.
Great to have you, and let's dive into a subject. You chose a subject which is recruitment, of course, because that's what you do the last 12 years already. You picked a very special subject, which is the candidate in recruitment.
Okay.
So how did you get this subject?
Yeah, before that, as you mentioned already, I was coming from the banking sectors, which gave me a lot of open door for ISG about recruitment, because I was already hiring my staff and was involved already in the process, selection, communication, and evaluating. So that was a good point to jump to ISG. I am here more than 12 years, and gave me a lot of observation about the process. But today I would like to talk about the candidate part, which seems very important. And we can call it like candidate behaving, candidate motivation. So I will explain the reasoning.
Let's dive into it. So why did you focus these candidates today?
Well, it's a long story, but let's cut it in short. As I involved in numbers of projects, hundreds, I would say, and thousands of candidates to communicate, that gave me a lot of opportunity to observe them, which was very positive, and that helped me for my personal development. And I tried to analyze their behaving, parallel their motivation to the opening project, why they are applying, what do they expect. And I realized the behaving is actually diversing in the countries, in the base of cultures, and West countries and the East countries, even Middle East, Africa, have very different behaving. So that gave me a lot of approach and strategy how to deal with them.
Yeah, there are very different markets. There are employer markets and there are employee markets. I guess you have, as you are recruiting all over the world, you have some experience with that among the applicants.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are many main reasons why it's called like employee and employer market. In developed countries, I observe that most of the projects are not attracting enough candidates. Either they are happy with their own condition, they are not jumping, they are not that much opportunities. There are so many reasons, and they are okay with their economic condition. This is what I observe in general. The details are, always kept in the subject. But in other countries like Turkey, Middle East, even Far East, Africa, such countries have different reasoning why the candidates become opportunist, even like a racer. When we all put a post on any platform, in the online platform, we receive in a couple of days, maximum 10 days, a couple of hundred candidates. When the level is increasing, even the candidates are becoming like 500, 600, which is amazing. But that is a bit critical point, because that relaxes the recruiter, us, and maybe the company to select most suitable one, but on base what? So that goes like deeper in the subject, because most of the candidates are focusing on their current problem, which is economic condition, which is maybe the location, such like metropole in Istanbul, some internal operational problem or the communication problem. They run away immediately because the market is too dynamic for their behalf. So the most racer or the best racer is caught by the company and place. But there are many uncovered points which are not even told by them. and then they come out immediately. And most of the candidates, you can see in their resume, they jump every year, every 2 years, sometime in a month. And why they change? Then they realize their motivations were very different than the reason they changed the company.
So what happens then when they realize the pre-job motivation was different than when they started and when they evolve in the position?
Yeah, this is quite sad condition because they are not happy for sure, because they look for always and their focus is decreasing, and that costs companies tremendous of amount of money. So during the period they can't benefit what they spent as effort, financial effort and such things. Everything would be wasted if a candidate doesn't stay in a company minimum 3 to 5 years, and under it is always underperformance. And then that affects a candidate's resume as a jumper. Then the professional companies don't like such behavior. So that is actually like, adding on each other, which nobody's happy in the end.
So how do you protect yourself? I know you give a guarantee to your customers. So if the candidate leaves after a certain period of time, or they have to dismiss the person or make them redundant, then you would certainly place once more for free a candidate. So how do you protect yourself from this happening, this wrong picking of a person because of their wrong motivation? How do you protect yourself against this?
Yeah, that is not 100% secure issue, but what we do once we are in touch with the client and they express their need, we try to set a meeting long enough to understand their expectation in terms of technical skills, soft skills, cultural expectation, depending on the company. So even we try to find out the hiring manager characteristic and try to fit the personality to them, which is not always possible, but so large we try to get the profile. Once the picture is ready or the frame is ready, we try to match the best candidates into it by soft skills, hard skills, communication, expectation, motivation. So the best one get the business. Although we try all the data, search criteria and asking so many questions, sometimes we fail. We guarantee and we feed them back once more.
You mentioned so many things. You can see you are full of knowledge, obviously. But let me pick the one subject you mentioned now, which is expectations. And there are two expectations. There is the expectation of the company, and there are expectations on the candidate side.
Right.
So
most of the companies are professional, as they are corporate. They have serious HR support on the job clarification, and they know what they want. The main reason of the problem...
Hopefully they know what they want. So if not, you can help them to figure out.
We ask questions. I presume that they are professionals. So we certainly try to guide them if they are open. But the candidates have different priority rather than expressing even to themselves what their motivation is. Because of other reasoning I mentioned earlier, like if they are not catching up with the inflation, for example, in Turkey, they like to straight their salary, whatever the cost is. If the location is too far, which costs them a couple of hours every day to drive up and down, if they find closer, then they shut up somehow for other reasons for the time being. And when they relax, then they change the company. So when as a recruitment consultant company or HR consultant company, I guess we are on the right spot to get the right insight of this talk with the candidate, meaning they rely on us by expressing themselves deeply and try to trust us, so which we would like to have anyway, and give all the reasoning what they would like to have. And we try to sometimes consult them that is not the right job for them, although it looks attractive, because in the end, based on many samples, they would not be happy there. So not to change, but we keep them in our mind, in our pool, and in case something else comes up, then we help them anyway in future, although we don't promise.
I see sometimes consultants, they are very opportunity driven. So when they see a candidate who is motivated or whatever motivational reason, they try to promote this candidate. And you say you go a step beyond that. You go and ask the reasoning. And if you see that it's the wrong reasoning, and they are not maybe aware of it, but if they see that it's the wrong reasoning, you do not choose them. Did I understand that right?
I believe this is about the experience, because it bounces back. First, you lose the trust from company to us, which is not our choice. So we would like to keep the trust level from the company to us on the highest level possible. So that means they are relying on us on the best service. Plus, if they bounce back and if the candidate goes out in guarantee period, then I have to work again. So, which is anyway a huge amount of cost, because each project minimum takes like between 8 to 120 hours. So, and the candidate is not happy. So the ultimate goal is actually making these three parties, I call CCC, candidate, client, and the consultant. We should be all happy in the end, and life should go on minimum 3 to 5 years in the same company.
Yeah, that's good. We say in leadership always you can't make everybody happy. And but you are trying the impossible, obviously, here. CCC, making the client happy, making the candidate happy, and that makes obviously you as the consultant happy. You mentioned here that they have in their focus salary and benefits and closeness, proximity to the workplace. And you say this is maybe very important to keep the job. But what role does branding of the company or team leadership in a company play to keep people? Is it just the benefits that the company can keep people, or are there other components that what the company can do to keep the people they once hired and maybe educated and developed, to keep them and retain them and go further with them?
That is a very important point you indicated. I believe this is another podcast subject, because then we move to a client side, because there are many responsibilities from their side. They can't just let a person come and adapt immediately. There are so many things to do, which really we should talk in another meeting, maybe in another podcast. But let us focus on candidate. Certainly, we ask many questions, many open questions. At least we presume that we understood the profile and try to match the candidate. So as many points covered with the matching, then we believe that's the right candidate, and we hand over to the company. And after that, your point comes out, they have to have their orientation program, culture adaptation, expectation clarity. There are so many things they have to go on with their orientation, which we are not much involved unless they ask extra services like, orientation, adaptation, coaching, or whatever they would like to have.
So we will have another podcast on this
Seems
subject
like,
of branding, maybe how to attract and retain the right people. But back to our subject, how to get the right people and evaluate them correctly. And there comes to my mind the right communication. So let's say, how do you keep in this sometimes long process, sometimes short process, how to keep up with the communication? What we experience in Europe a lot is that the candidates have many choices. They don't have only one job. They apply at many jobs, and sometimes they can't even remember when you call them which job they applied.
Happens very often,
disturbs the company mostly. But let's say, how do you keep up good communication, informed, quality communication with candidates while you are also dealing with the company?
Yeah, there's a constant project process, I would say. That's the reason one cannot run more than 10 projects at once. So it requires huge amount of time and many hours, because each project requires minimum 5 people as shortlist. So that means till they decide, you have to keep the communication on certain level. So there are many ways, depending on the candidate also, because they are also human being. They don't like maybe so close relation. They sometimes just writing is enough. Sometimes motivating is necessary. Sometimes they cry on you, so you have to talk to them. There are many ways apart from the client's requirement, but this is back and forward with the feedback and asking how they feel. So that is continuous. There are so many details, but eventually you have to keep up with them and keep them warm till as long as they are willing and as long as they are in the shortlist.
Keep it cooking, okay? So keep them informed is actually the formula.
Exactly, yeah.
Quality communication. You said now two important points, 10 projects for one consultant. I know that there are consultants which try to tackle and keep the plates on the sticks of 20 projects. Obviously, you work on more quality based than on mass, but where is the return of investment?
Yeah, 10 is a good, even high number, depending on your project type, because every project based on their level, like C-level or specialist or mid management level, requires different approaches, different steps to go further. So you are, as a consultant, shaped constantly during the day, changing the mood from one step to the other, one call to the other. You have to keep up and make maybe just for the running project, 10, 15 call minimum, apart from your daily operation. And that is quite tiring. So not to kill yourself, you have to keep on the energy level where you can really be the best choice for the candidate and for the customer. So that is already forcing the borders. Up to 10, one can easily manage if they are full-time engaged in such business.
So you work with a team, so you have researchers, you have
There are
yourself,
different,
and you have other consultants helping you
right.
with your projects. You mentioned another point which triggered an idea. You said you want to deliver 5 candidates for each project. What is if there are not 5 candidates? What do you do then?
We don't promise. Certainly the criteria is shaped during the process, and based on our experience, we know what sectors, what kind of roles can get how many. That's a number game. However, 3 to 5 is a good number for the companies to choose and to compare it. That is the healthiest way if they can receive that many. And about this, I question the companies behaving, because that means they don't spend enough time to evaluate this 5. When they ask 10, 15 candidates, they either don't even read the report or they just miss the point. So our goal is to select on the highest criteria in terms of numbers, whatever they just shared with us, and give the most closest one. So according to our experience, the 3, 5 candidates are actually the most suitable candidates. That should be easy to choose among them, unless they have other ideas.
Coming back to quality communication, when you give me these numbers, I just made a short calculation. If you have 10 projects and you have in your area where you mostly work 100, 150, 200 candidates, then you deal here with 1,000, 2,000 people. On the other hand, if you have 10 projects and you have 5 candidates which you interviewed and go deeper on the short list, we didn't speak about the long list, which is mostly 20 people long, but let's say you are only in the short list and keep them informed over the period of time of, let's say, 6 weeks to 6 months,
Even
or 9
longer, yeah.
months, how long the project's open. And each company has a different, sometimes longer process. There are 50 people at the time. keeping them informed on what basis? On a weekly basis, or how do you deal with
It
so
is
many
all
people?
varies. There's no certain rule. As I said, these are all tailor-made work for everybody. I mean, even for us. So that's the daily discipline. You have to do it anyway. Unless you do, you miss some point, then you lose your quality. So it becomes natural, and not every consultant handles 10 projects constantly, so at a time. So it's a choice of the person. Me, I like talking to people. I like communicating people, and that gives me extra energy. So I'm not bothered, and I'm happy when I talk to many people, but not everybody has the same criteria.
I know you like talking, and you're a whole day on the phone. That comes from the stock exchange, I guess.
It's
When
my
you are
pleasure.
working
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
It comes back to the ROI, the return of investment. If a consultant has not 10 projects, can you guarantee the return of investment on this consultant?
We made this work actually many times. We know good paid project should be year long, 10 to 15, that a consultant can survive out of this business. Under doesn't make any sense, because then is a joke. You can enjoy once in a while, unless you have no stress extra. But if you take it as a professional business, which is running daily because the customer can't wait. So I guess 10 running and closing over the years, 15 to 20, it's good enough for one consultant living in right condition. In our case,
it depends on what level you serve. If you serve maybe blue collar, you need 20 at a time. And if you do specialists and managers,
exactly,
10, 15. If you do C-level only executive search, maybe you are good with 7, 8 a year.
Exactly. Yeah. So depends. If you are senior, you look for senior spending, senior income. If you are junior, you are happy with junior position and junior income. So
coming back on the feedback, I'm a bit curious. What kind of feedback does the candidate look for when you keep them, as you called it, warm until the company makes a decision?
They want to know the development, so step by step. Before they communicate the client, we mostly prepare them, asking if they have any question, if they study the company already, if they are comfortable enough. So that prepares them to be confident at the interview with the client. And after that, we ask both sides how it was. So if they were happy in the end, if they were stressed, how the client thinks, how the candidate thinks, and as open as possible, we give the feedback to mostly to a candidate. If they are not chosen, that's the general case, because we provide 5, one is chosen in the end. We ensure them this is not about their total background. This is the chemistry issue. The person who has the right electricity between them, then the chemical matching is important. So the chemistry, what they create between them, is the last point to close the project.
The question arises here, when you say you have 3 or 5 candidates which are in the short list, so you went quite far. They have very high hopes already because they were chosen, they were maybe found by you, they were in the process, a couple of meetings, maybe they had a test and so on. And now the expectations are very high. And you said you can take only one. What happens to the other 2 or 4 people? Could you help them as well further, or is it over?
On my case, as I'm communicating them constantly, we became professional friends, let's say. So we try to understand each other, and in the end effect, we are somehow building network between each other. They know they are, if it's 20% chance, which is all okay. but they look for another businesses. So sometimes they find and they become my customer, which is very positive. This is a success story maybe for later on. And I ensure them that they are okay, but the chance was 20, and the one who got, that's maybe, as I said, like the chemistry which is created in the meeting, because you have to feel right when you shake someone's hand. So that is the person.
Are you going with them and do some chasings to approach some other companies where you say, okay, I have here a very hot qualified candidate, and I know you sometimes look for such.
Sometimes happens, depends. So if we have another open role, sure, we suggest them. But as you also know, each requirement is so critical. Even the same sector, similar size, they may not require the same condition. So it's not so easy to secure them in that way. But we keep communicating, and if they extra need, like career coaching, consulting, and such things, we certainly give as a service. The other than this expectation, we just give some suggestion, and if they ask some deeper question, we answer. That's all.
I know you have a coaching certificate and other people in your organization. When you have such a candidate and they do look for career coaching, do you provide it then yourself, or do you hand over to another consultant?
I'm not very experienced in that part. I call myself more consultant than coaching, as I may be talking too much. But we have very professional coaches within our group. So if any requirement comes up like this, I direct them to the professional one. If they agree on the certain basis, then they get the service.
Could you give us some placement success stories, how it works in Turkey? What some testimonials or stories where you said this was the process, this is how we communicated, this is how happy the candidate and the consultant and the companies were?
I guess I have many, because most of the project I completed 100%, and we have some like guarantee issue, let's say 3 to 5%. So 100 project bounce back somehow. So that means they are not happy. The rest is all happy. So I measure my happiness as long as they are staying in the company more than 3 years, 5 years. For me, is a good result. So that means they are settled. And if they even suggest me as a consultant extra, and I get directly from their business some new project, then I check myself or call myself successful.
And when we come to the question where I say, how do you handle a situation where the candidate, which I mentioned before, has multiple choices to take a job, and maybe with other consultants, not with your company, not with you, but other jobs, would you go for selling your job, or would you try to find the best fit for the person, even if you wouldn't earn afterwards?
That's a good question and a bit tricky condition. I learned over the years. Now I'm asking the candidates openly if they have any running active process they are in. So most of them tell us, and then I find out what stage they are. If the processes are on the same stage, like, just the beginning, I ask them, would they be in the process? Then I express this condition to the client as they are already. And if there is a very, let's say, perfect candidate, which I believe would be 100% fitting and already has some stages gone with the other companies or processes, I still put them with their permission and inform the company in case they agree with me, they would like to act quicker to hire. So this happens, but it's all individual based and it's unique processes.
It comes back to the quality communication, actually. Yeah.
I believe open communication helps everyone, although sometimes it's a bit hurting, but that is really helping to have the straightforward and honest communication.
Yeah. When we go to the future of recruitment, there is AI, and there are so many conversations of which jobs will be there in the future, which jobs will be dismissed. And we hear even from lawyers that many of the generic businesses will be done by AI. What's the future of recruitment and AI? The future of a consultant with AI?
I believe AI already is involved in our processes, which we benefit. Just online platforms are sort of, because we don't know what kind of parameters are running behind, which helps us a lot to select and search candidates. We also, as ISG, use ChatGPT, let's say, for stating our report to make it more professional looking. We use search criteria for such manner already. So that will improve. So far, I believe AI is just a good tool for us to make the things faster in a better quality way.
So to support you, in what manner does AI support you already? Which tools do you use, or in what process steps do you use it?
As I said, the platforms are anyway AI supported. So that is very important. When you just think of LinkedIn and Think in Europe, they have already certain criteria which we don't see in front of the page, but we use them by, Boolean search and putting some criteria and such things. Apart from that, as we are not a native speaker, we may create some mistakes in our reports, which we would like to avoid. And I used to write a report in English, read this 3 times, sometimes 4 times, although I'm not sure 100% for a native speaker. But now I'm more confident with ChatGPT, asking how it looks and asking to write once more, and I control my report again, and I get better shaped written reports.
So you write and let rewrite then the chat to
exactly,
make
because
it straight.
The information.
Do you use it also for advertisements and marketing?
Yes, not personally. Marketing is done by another team. Advertisement is certainly, it's a good tool to articulate and put them in an order with the right information, what we put in. So we use that part also.
I tried this. I asked one of our consultants for IT position and said, how long do you take for an ad to write? And they said, half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour. And then I said, look, it takes 5 seconds. And I said, give me any position. And it really got out. And the consultant said, yeah, wow, exactly. That's what I need. And this is what I need. So is this the way to write a position and then rewrite it with chat, large language models?
That helps a lot. Yeah, that helps a lot.
The quality increases and the speed.
Yeah, that's the reason AI can help us a lot, like a professional secretary who can focus without any emotion and works 24 hours, doesn't ask for food, salary, and such things. So that's the perfect solution and enabled us to focus on communication, understanding people. This is not done yet by AI. So we can focus on that part better and increase the quality.
Will it come that you can fully automate these processes?
I'm not scared based on my age, but I don't know 100 years after.
We made already a project that was only in one country, and we put in 2 collective agreements, cooks and waiters, and on the other side, customers, and everything else was automated. So the people who were in the program, choose their own cooks and waiters for a daily job or for a week. Okay. And 15,000 people found each other 15,000 times. They made an agreement in 1 year, in the first test running year. So this was a first automation, and you can put then more and more programs on it to evaluate. And I guess that can be a future which might be scary for some positions. Yeah. But do you think it's more in the fast business where you don't have the effort, like a 2 days job, you cannot pay the consultant much, so you should automate it. But what we figured out at that time is that the cook may be a 20 years long cook, or it was written in the CV that the guy made his cooking certificate 20 years ago, but he never cooked in these 20 years. That is not seen in such a kind of system. This can evolve.
Exactly. So, but this is not our subject, because we focus on the senior level positions, not much mass recruitment.
What kind of innovations do you see right now? In general, what is the behavior in the market? How easy is it to find people? And how is it to find a job? Or what are the, at the moment, market conditions?
Okay, I can compare with the time when I started, meaning like 12 years ago. As we mentioned, here in Turkey, looking for a candidate and receiving active candidates is getting more and more on towards what I described for European developed countries. The candidates, certain qualifications, certain sectors are not applying anymore. They expect to be reached, to be convinced, motivated, and such things, because that affects the price. When you think of the companies, more and more companies are appreciating our service, although I still believe the recruitment or the HR consultancy is still doing the baby step comparing to Europe. So there is a long way to go of understanding HR importance, receiving budget from the company for HR department. Most of the HR department don't have it, so they can't even attempt to use such sort of forces. So there is a long way to go for companies to give the importance in employees and value them in a way to train them, to educate them, to orient them, to get the best out of it by motivating them, not like only paying salary. This is your right, you have to work. It doesn't work this way. And most of the companies understand this slowly. That's what I can observe. So it's getting better, but there is a long way to go.
As we say, market conditions, there came to my mind also, and I know you work since 4 or 5 years already internationally with certain specialist position. I remember you started with nurses to Germany, from Turkey to Germany. So this international, I call it brain drain, is not only on the level of doctors and nurses, but also now with workers, with drivers. So there are so many occupations in Germany, in Switzerland, in Austria, in all over Europe, where they can't find enough people in their own country. So they look forward first for European countries, and then as there are not enough of those qualifications, they look now also to countries like Turkey, Asia, South America, and so on. So what is your experience here, and how do you see the future of this?
Yeah, that was a good experience. As you said, I worked in very different locations. I worked for some project in America. I worked for Africa. I sourced from Far East. I worked for Middle East. Very different subject, different levels. It is a good opportunity for such companies like us to use the communication to help people who are willing to change the country for certain term, for certain project, because there is a huge demand, but that should be handled really delicately, because there are so many companies trying to get benefit out of these processes, and many wrongly behaving from consultant side, from candidate side, has to be evaluated right. And doing the things right, I guess, is important. And for such companies who has already high reputation, I consider ISG is one of them. We should be evaluating the process diligently and see how it is. Not every business is for us, but we have to go and consider it detail.
How important is language? You say you have to be delicate, you have to be careful, because there are people, they are going in foreign countries, they are afraid, the parents are afraid, the whole family, they are concerned with such moves. Some of them really, I see, they want to go, Sometimes the parents want them to go. So there are so many dynamics.
Right.
How do you really deal with it, that we get a little bit of glimpse that this human factor, which is so important, obviously, to you, is there? And on the other side, I know that especially Germany and Austria, they look for language. How do you deal with this? Because not everybody in Turkey or Asia or wherever speaks German.
Yeah, the certain criteria, the biggest one is language, as you say, because the qualification, whatever is required, is done already. The person has the experience, has the certification, no problem. But let's say to Germany, unless the candidate has B2 level, can't survive. Dealing with the patient, dealing with the personnel, and understanding and surviving in the country with different German, let's say, not everything is Hochdeutsch. This reason has to be B2 minimum. The candidate can survive there, otherwise they come back or they are kicked out. So there are many things to handle in such process for German-speaking countries. English is the same. So when it involves any foreign language, a candidate should be tested by the consultant company on the level of German, although they have certificate, how they express, if they are confident enough and such things. This is one thing, but there are so many points to help them to relocate.
So there's a lot of communication to the candidates, as we focus today, the candidate,
Exactly.
to inform them and help them
Preparing
to get
them,
everything ready. They have to get the kind of, although maybe they are nurses or they are in their qualifications, they have to nostrify this. There's a nostrification.
For a qualification, they have to get approved by the government that they can do the business. But the settlement is there for Germany, for example. Germany is already professional enough to receive foreigners. They have perfect system. The deal on us is to find the right source in Germany who would employ and prepare the people for this process individually in each step.
Yeah, language and so on. So do you recommend schools, or do you teach them yourself? Or how do you
German?
get them to the language skills?
I didn't get my B1 certificate yet. No, there are many professional courses in Turkey. Not only the courses, the certificate has to be anyway on the certain institute. So they can't just go saying, but I know German. Has to be proved by the certificate.
Yeah, time is passing so fast with you. It's amazing. So what kind of advice would you give to people who look for a job, as we focus the candidates at the moment?
This is also a very deep subject, but basically a person who looks for a job should adapt himself, his background, align with the job description, should find the points and highlight them on their CV, because when we read the CV, for me, it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes to evaluate, because I know what I'm looking for. It is available for everyone. So we focus among thousands of CVs, hundreds of CVs, only on the points what customer is requiring. The rest ignored by us because we don't need them. So it's very important for a candidate to highlight somehow on the criteria what the company requires. So they should have it anyway in base. It's important to have an eye catcher on the CV, so I can, as a consultant, see, then I can say, okay, let's talk with this candidate, see if he's suitable. So this is one thing. Every platform has very different criteria. I would also suggest to be actively sourcing, looking for the right criteria based on their skills. And this is the same effort what we look for them. So they have to look for a job with the same criteria.
Any wrap-up comment?
That is, I guess, quite self-evaluation subject. So each candidate can ask a couple of questions to themselves and honestly answer. What am I looking for? Are the criteria matching? What am I going to bring as value to the company? What is my contribution? And such questions would get the right answer to them, they don't need anybody. If they keep such questions, then they will find out if they are the qualified and ready to move to another company. So self-evaluation, I believe, is important. Whenever they need support, we are here. We can always help them. But it is a very basic and easy thing to do.
How does somebody reach you if they want to reach out to you, talk to you, if they want to service or not, but talking to you?
Professional, I am in LinkedIn, Sync. So with my name, with my communication tools like mail address and such things on our webpage also. I'm easily reached, and my telephone has been the same over 30 years, never changed. So I'm always easy to be reached.
Nuray, very deep insights. We could talk for hours, obviously. You know what you are talking about. Thank you very much for these insights. And I hope we found already 2 more subjects for you for the next podcast. So see you soon. Thank you very, very much for this time and effort.
Thank you. Thank you. It was my pleasure and happy to have such time with you. And let's see and meet another podcast.
Wonderful. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.